All right, so we could hop right into the disclaimer. This content is not intended to be substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have read or heard from our podcast. If you're in a crisis or you think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call 1 800 273 8255 to talk to a skilled, trained counselor at a crisis center in your area at any time. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you are located outside the US, call your local emergency line immediately. Breathe Easy Media is not a direct service organization. Breathe Easy Media does not recommend or endorse any clinicians, counselors, psychiatrists, social workers, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on our podcast. Reliance on any information provided by Breathe Easy Media hosts, Breathe Easy Media guests, or others appearing on the Breathe Easy Media platform is solely at your own risk.
That's legit, Cal. That's legit.
Yeah, right. I know the last disclaimer I give the last show was like, okay, look, hey, we are not professional, like physicians. We're not professionals at this. Okay, we're just men talking about our experiences, opening up to people to let them know, like, hey, this whole mental health thing is, hey, we're trying to stigmatize it, try and make it a comfortable place that people could just share what's top of mind. I mean, this is a form of therapy to me too. So, yeah, I love it.
Same.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are we talking about tonight?
Tonight, we're about to talk about what's top of mind. Everybody's talking about going back, the road back to the office, right? Going back to the office. So we're talking about like, how do you sustain mental health? How do you build your mental health in a virtual world, right? Working in a virtual world. Thank you. Boom. And many of us was excited about the flexibility to work from home. 25% of, so keep in mind, right, before the whole pandemic, right, 25% of job seekers looked at working from home. Working from home was one of the perks that they were interested in, right? And like, one thing with working from home, obviously gives you freedom. You don't have to deal with the commute. I mean, Jesus Christ, like my commute for my last job was, I literally had like an hour and a half to work and probably like 2 hours back, just stuck in traffic, to the point where I was like, well, crap, like let me just go ahead and wake up earlier to go to the gym so I could cut my commute down, so I don't have to just be sitting in traffic all this time, right? So being able to work from home and not have to deal with traffic, that's big for me, right? But when you look at the data, right, 51% of employees feel more stress working from home. All right. 55% of employees have had an increased workload. I mean, it's just amazing where you look at companies, they're talking about, well, okay, we want to bring people back in the office because, of course, it would help morale and, you have more control, right, over like, people are coming in to people coming into the office. But what companies are starting to find out, and you have announcements that's being made, they're actually open to having this hybrid environment, or even just leaving the employees to work from home. But the challenge with that is people not getting enough sleep. You look at, I'm just dropping some facts, man. 73% of people that work from home are not, one, getting enough sleep. 67, not taking a responsible time off of work because they're so glued to work. I tell you this, I went on a vacation and by habit, I was just checking my emails, seeing all the emails come through. wanted to just respond to the email. I'm like, wait, why the hell am I even worried about this? I'm sitting on the beach, you know. So is I know we led the topic about like, okay, well, let's, being healthy. I think one of the biggest things that I started to realize from working from home is that, well, you need to build a routine, right? Because when you're working in the office, you had a routine. You get up, make breakfast, probably, you probably go to the gym. Um, you when you get into the office, you probably get some coffee, or you get some coffee on the way to the office. You talk to a couple of friends at different your cubicles, and then you get right to your desk, right? Probably after a weekend, you talking to everybody about like, yeah, what you do last weekend, like that kind of talk you had in the office. But how do you do it now, right? Because after a long weekend, you just wake up and then boom, you right back in the office. You haven't left. You've been there. So it's like I'm kind of interested to hear from you guys. Like, I mean, how have you dealt with this working remote life? Like, how do you separate that? Because I mean, it's almost like, okay, how do you separate it? And I get people saying like, oh yeah, I love my job, right? I love my job. And it's like, if you love something, and you could do it whenever time you like, but at the same time, you have to have some type of balance physically, mentally, emotionally, and your relationships, right? Because your relationships could weigh down just based off of, you know, working virtually, which I mean, it may be a benefit for us all, which we have the flexibility, but at the same time, like, are we missing out on some other things? You know?
So in the beginning, right, when the pandemic started and everybody started working from home, I was one of the oddballs who was stuck in my routine, and I was still going to the office every day. I'm like, nah, man, I have my routine set, still going into the office every day, do my thing. I'm the only guy in a building that's probably 100,000 square feet, got the whole place to myself, sit in my office, knock out my work. And I try to finish most of my work before I actually leave for the day so that when I come home, again, going back to being intentional about spending time with the family, I'm actually focused on them when I walk through the door. So that was a major reason for it. So I was late on the train, and I slowly adapted to working from home. But like someone in the comments mentioned, you're working from home and your kids are at home too, and you're trying to, you're on calls, your kids are supposed to be on calls, they're having technical issues. I used to tell my wife jokingly that we're co-teaching. You got to make sure that they're focused. You can see that they're not engaged, they're bored, and it's tough for them sitting in front of a screen for 6 to 8 hours a day. And then it's tough on us as well. I mean, like Jerome mentioned in the comments, Zoom fatigue is real. So it starts wearing you down. Now, I'm not going to lie, there are some benefits. For me, when I'm on a Zoom call, I'm usually business up top and casual down on the bottom. So I'm wearing a nice dress shirt because that's all you can see me is from the head up. But I got basketball shorts on down below and, some kicks. So not having to worry about, getting dressed every day. That obviously makes things easier. Not having to sit in traffic, which, let's be real, there really was no traffic for a period in time because everybody was working from home, or at least a vast majority of people. And shout out to the people, and I think we can't forget the people who did not have a choice, who had to continue going into work. I can only imagine the mental toll that takes. People like our service workers in the service industry, doctors, nurses, firefighters, police officers. Those people didn't have a choice. They just had to figure it out. So on one side, I am fortunate for the opportunity to work from home. And at this point, I'm really not looking forward. You know what? I just want the option to choose. I think that's what it really comes down to. For me, I feel like as long as I'm getting my work done throughout the day, let me choose whether I want to work from home or come into the office. And I know that's hard from a corporate perspective to manage that. You don't know how much office space, you don't know how much resources you need in the office. But for me, that's the best of both worlds, is having that opportunity to choose whether I work from home or not.
So I have a bit of a unique perspective, right? So pre-pandemic, right, I was already working from home full time, 100%, which was a shift for me in and of itself, because before that, I was in office all the time, right? And the type of work I did at that time, was required to be in the office. There was no such thing as work from home under any conditions. So pre-pandemic, I was already working from home. So when everybody, when pandemic hit and everybody was switching to home, nothing changed for me, except for, wait, there's more people in the house now. What's going on? Right? The wife is home, the kids are home. Now we had to figure out, like you said, Chris, the homeschooling, the kids, trying to manage them, co-teaching. I wasn't built to be a teacher of, elementary school, man. It just doesn't work for me like that. So shout out to my wife, because she did an amazing job. So the flip side for me was that it was business as usual. And for me, and a lot of my colleagues and employees, it was business as usual for them as well. Um, it, it's the stress or the challenge that came in was the everything else that was going on, right? It wasn't just work that I had to focus in on. Everyone else was home and having to, have to kind of corn off and like, this is work time, guys, or my kids, versus, this is daddy's playtime, right? Because what you see here, right? This is my office, right? So this is what happens this is where I work. This is also where we're doing this podcast. This is where I also come back and relax, right? So it's my everything space. And having to consciously in my mind kind of say, okay, well, this is where I am at right now. This is what this space is serving for me, was critically important for me to be able to, make that shift between my different roles, right? From work to, to needing my me time for rest and reflection, to, hanging out with we don't hang with the kids in here, but hanging out with the kids and the family. In the house, same place that we've been under lockdown for over a year. So it was pretty interesting. But what really hit the nail for me when you were talking, Chris, was the corporate stance that you said. It's really difficult for corporations to kind of make that assessment if they give you the option of either working from home when you want to, or coming into the office. So the question that kind of comes up to me is that, is there, talking about corporate social responsibility, right? There's a lot of benefits to, working from home, both from a corporate stance as well as a certainly economic stance for them, as well as the employees. But let's talk about global warming as well, right? With the reduction of cars on the road, or whatever the case may be, there are benefits beyond the obvious. And I wonder, if it's a corporate social responsibility for them to say, hey, you know what, given the conditions that we've seen here this past year, and X% of productivity still remained, do we have to have folks back in the office?
So I think for the people who are making those decisions at that level, my assumption would be that they're looking at the costs of housing all their employees, in this real estate space, the office, as well as, our travel and entertainment budget for my company, and I'm sure others, was virtually nothing. We usually have, some type of catered event once a week, and that's just here locally for my office. We do it nationally. So the amount of money that corporations are saving by having employees work from home is monumental. Now, the flip side of it, in my opinion, is, does it have an effect on the culture within the company? by not being able to, engage in dialogue with your coworkers on a daily basis, not being able to bounce ideas, feeling isolated, like you're working alone, sitting in front of the computer, getting Zoom fatigue. I mean, some days I'm one of those weird people that track my steps. I'll look at my steps sometime in the afternoon. I'm like, man, I only walked like half a mile today. I need to get up. And it's because I've been sitting here on the computer literally all day. Whereas if I was in the office, I'd be walking around and engaging and, going to get coffee. And so I think that's what they're trying to balance. But I think they've made their decision because from what I've heard, most corporations are requiring their employees to come back into the office. Now, I don't know what went along with that decision or if it was a trickle down effect where, the biggest players said, yes, we're going to do it. And then everybody else just followed suit. But yeah, we're going back to return to office. I've heard as early as June, which is, 10 days from now for a lot of corporations. So back to the office we go.
So, Chris, you actually touched on something that that I was thinking about too is that word is isolation, right? Because it's almost, when you're in an organization, when you're in a team, one thing, you go into the office, you see each other, you're able to connect with each other, you feel like you're part of something, you feel like you actually belong, right? But like not having that experience to be able to say like turn to like a coworker to tell them about like some like an exciting, like say if you're in sales and you just close a deal and you could share that excitement with somebody, your coworker right next to you, or say you just get off a call with somebody and you could express that to another person like right next to you. You could like, hey, you could be like, hey Ralph, let's go for a walk. You know what I mean? Let's talk about that. And it's funny because like, I have to, now the weather is getting better up here in the Northeast, is like I have to kind of like program myself to just be like, hey, you know what? Take like 5-10 minutes off to go for a walk. Because for example, I tell you my schedule, right? And where, remember when we was in the office, you set up your calendar. You have to set like a little gap to get to where you have to go, or like if you go into like certain offices. But like I noticed for a while when I was working from home, my schedule would just go boom, back to 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 back meetings, right? To the point where what I started doing is I started setting, so I started looking at like, it was like, wait a minute, but every meeting that people set with me is a half hour. And it's setting a half hour meeting to just talk about like something that they could send in an email. So now I strategically try to try to save my time, manage my time, right? To try to like solve problems before they have to go to a meeting. That's one. And then two, I encourage people to set 15-minute meetings, right? 15 because like, well, one, you get to the point, is more productive. You feel like you don't have to take up that time. But then two, at least I have the next 15 minutes to prepare to get into like my next meeting. So sometimes like I'll set my meeting for like 25 minutes. So I can have 5 minutes to, get my mind ready to hop into the next meeting. Because like, if you don't do it, you could just walk yourself to complete exhaustion and you look at the end of the day and you're like, well, yeah, I got a lot done, but like, damn, I got to do this all over again.
My calendar is easily 8 to 2 back to back.
Right.
No breaks, no nothing. They just expect that I'll be into that next meeting. So what I've started doing is does it have to be solved right now? Does it have to be solved this week? If it doesn't have to be solved right now or this week, then you can wait until we have our weekly sync meeting to be able to deal with any of those issues or challenges, right, where you need my advice. And if it's something that you just need my perspective on, you either ping me, we use Slack, so you either Slack me or send me an email, right? We don't need to talk about every nitty gritty detail of everything, and then you're taking up all of the hours of my day, and I can't really get any real productive work done.
Yeah, I totally agree as far as the meetings go. And it's funny because if I'm in a meeting with more than 10, 15 people, guaranteed half of them not paying attention to whoever's talking at the time. Matter of fact, half of them don't even have their camera on. So who knows what they're doing? And they're basically just listening for their name to be called just in case they have to speak up and say something. So what I started doing with a lot of my meetings that were one-on-one, I said, you know what? Rather than us meet on camera, let me just pick up the phone and call you. Because that allows both me and whoever I'm meeting with to walk around. You know, I'll walk, good 20 minutes while I'm on the phone, get some exercise in, while I'm doing other things while I'm talking to that person versus them feeling like they have to sit on camera. Maybe they're dressed, maybe they're not. But I feel like that's a de-stressor, at least for me, is just picking up the phone, calling that person, and having a real conversation. But yeah, going back to if the meeting's more than 10 plus people, man, them people ain't paying attention. And maybe corporations are hip to that. Maybe they're like, well, y'all were paying attention when we had you in the office.
Mhm.
In my opinion, productivity has not dropped. Just, from what I see on a daily basis. If anything, it's increased. It feels like the workload has increased. I will say the flip side to video conferencing that has been a benefit is I'm now video conferencing via Zoom or FaceTime or whatever with people, friends and family that I otherwise would not have before. So I'm getting to see those people and engage with them on camera, whether it be family or people overseas or whomever. So that's definitely, look what we're doing right now.
Well, Chris, I have to jump in and say, like, you're so right about that. Cause like I just talked to my dad when it was Sunday. He finally got an iPhone 11. He finally got a new iPhone. So I'm like, yeah, well, finally, you could FaceTime, right? Because he was still using his own little flip phone. I'm like, dude, you need to like get to 2021, But like, the people around him they would use FaceTime and all this different type of stuff. And it's like, well, now we could use this technology, right? So that I guess that's the other flip side to it. And where now you could feel a little bit more connected, right? You don't have to feel that distance where you could use, video to like connect to people.
So we got an interesting question in the comments that was posted up there from Adrian. She said, after a year of working from home, how do you prepare to go back into the office? How do you prepare mentally, emotionally?
So I think it's just reverting back to something that you were doing in the past. For me personally, right now, I still go into the office at least one day a week, just to get out of the house, check in on things at the office. I usually have some mail or something. I was there today and I forgot to pick up my mail. I just remembered. But I usually have some stuff I need to pick up from there, or just people that I'm meeting where we need to swap some type of items, physical items. Now, if I have to go back every single day, it's not going to be easy. But the thing for me is I know that I've done it in the past. So, it's just an adjustment time-wise more than anything. And, preparing, making sure I have enough time, calculating for traffic, and then, refocusing my schedule on being back in the office. Ralph, I'm go ahead.
I was gonna ask, and so I hear you, right? I feel you, I agree, right? But then you add the next layer to that of COVID, right? We still have this thing out there, and there's anxiety around that, right? So now I'm going into the office. So some folks haven't seen it in about a year, and let's say we assume that we were working with them beforehand. Maybe I got a new job in the pandemic. God bless. And now I'm working or coming into the work with people that I've never worked with before.
I was really interested to hear your answer because I think out of the three of us, you work from home by far the most and have worked from home for a longer period of time than both of us. So I'm just curious if they were like, Ralph, we need you to starting tomorrow, start coming back into the office.
I wouldn't even know where to go. Let me come back into the office. Where's the office? I don't even know where to go. All right. And then I'm going to say why, right? Because none of my team is local to where I'm at, right? No, none of my team. So there's no reason for me to come into the office. And then, if somehow they got through all of that barriers, then I'm be like, y'all got any more open than somewhere else? Because I ain't trying to go back into the office. I think just the toll for me, right? The toll of, getting up, rushing out to the house, getting the kids ready, jumping in your car, either dropping the kids off and then, trying to fight traffic to get into the office, decompress from traffic, get to your desk, figure out what you got going on, deal with all of that stresses of the day, then doing it all over again in reverse after the day. I am so over that. Having worked from home for so long now, for somebody to say that you got to go back in the office, that would be really a toll on me, right? Because I'm like, man, I'm in my comfort zone now, right? Now you're asking me to come back into the office. That's something that's I would strongly have to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I think for me, preparing to go to the office, I mean, I'm kind of like in the same boat as Ralph. So I'm working, I'm working in Boston. My office is out in New York, but there is like a branch, there's like satellite offices here that I could go into. And the way I would think about going back into the office is one, I would prepare myself to take little gaps in the day and not try to like work myself to exhaustion. You know, I would try to factor in some time to like talk to some employees and just catch up on like what's going on with them and their life. Um, I would take advantage of the opportunity to have some to get some of that social interaction so I could just pick up like a rhythm, right? Because I feel like going back into the office is almost like you have to get back into that flow where it's okay, you can't just be so focused on work. And to your point, I wonder how productivity going to become after being in the office, because I know when in the office, like there was so many distractions around me versus like now, right? Like now I could just, I mean, I don't have that much distractions unless like I'm watching, Bitcoin just drop and go up and down with all the volatility or something. I I don't, and I think the big thing for me is, prepare myself to go in. I want to take some gaps out of my day to one, possibly like meditate, go for a walk. If you have a gym close by, probably go for like a quick little workout and, during lunchtime. I know everybody can't do that in that job, but that's kind of that's kind of what I would like to do. Is just take advantage of the people around me to get at social interactions time, just so I could be with the team, and definitely check out the how the environment and the layout of the office is, because I know some of these offices are definitely going to change when we go back. I've heard and saw like apparently the office is going to be a little bit more COVID friendly. Um, but yeah, I think the way you have to prepare, the way I'm going to prepare myself to go into the office, if I have to go in, is obviously be a little bit more intentional of what I need to get done in the office each and every day. Not just showing up to show up. Like sometimes I would just show up and just, okay, well, I'll just figure it out when I get there. But I'd like to go into the office, be intentional, get what I have to get done, because when I come back home, I don't want to have to think about work, right? Because that's not the plan. Like the plan is to go to work and just get it all done there, you know, and then to come back and then to continue to work. Then why the hell did I even like go into
Why
it,
did I go into the office?
right?
So I'm trying to think of things that for the people who are returning to the office who will never be the same. And the only things I can come up with are expenses will probably never be the same. Because again, going back to my point from earlier, once these companies and corporations realize how much money they have saved, and a lot of them have realized it, obviously, they're not going to want to continue to spend money on things that they don't necessarily feel provide some type of return. Now, you can make the argument that, again, to have that good company culture, you need to have these things. But I think a lot of them are realizing, hey, everybody's still here, everybody's still producing at a high level. Maybe we don't need to fly Cal to California to meet with this client and take them out to dinner. Just have them hop on a Zoom. So it'll be interesting to see how guidelines and procedures change once you're back in the office. And Cal, you may have already experienced this.
Well, Chris, it's funny you talk about company culture, and it depends what kind of company you have, because if you have a young company culture, they're already used to just having their life in social media, in the web. They're used to this type of lifestyle. But with our generation, which is interesting, I mean, we've been able to see so many different parts of it. Like, we lived with and without social media, right? So it's like, to us, we may not be that affected, but yeah, I guess it goes back to the type of company and the culture that they have, right? Because like a company, say like a tech company, who attracting like millennials might do okay with having millennials work remote, because like, okay, they've had to deal, they have to go through this pandemic. It'll be interesting to see like the next group of people, like the next classes and this generation come through it, especially when you talk about kids working from home. That's the last time I'll touch on this, but my sister is funny, because my sister, she has her kids at home, and she's almost like frustrated, because she's like, well, I feel like I'm doing all the work teaching my kids, except for the teacher is actually teaching my kids. But, I also wonder if that now the kids have to kind of like teach themselves, and self-learning is going to be like a thing that people are going to have to start doing, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but yeah. Yeah, I think the company culture, yeah, that's a good argument, right, Chris? Is like, well, okay, well, do we have to like spend all this money just to keep or maintain that? Perhaps we need to just go after the worker that we need, a younger worker, right? I know that. Yeah. So,
You did deep there. That's a topic.
Right.
Shout out to episode number 2, social media effect. If you guys haven't heard, listen to that one. We dig deep into social media stuff. If you haven't checked it out, check it out.
I like that plug. I love that plug.
Hey, you got to plug it. We did some awesome conversations around that, man. And you brought it up. So there's a comment here. I'm wondering if we can write a note. Hey, Breathe Easy can write a note so that they can stay work from home a little bit longer.
So I guess I need to read the disclaimer again then, right?
Hey, yeah. I'll draft up that note. I don't know how good it's gonna do for you, but by all means,
I'm gonna have the faith that Breathe Easy could make some waves and make it happen for you.
I like that. I like that.
I'm gonna have to read the disclaimer again, but yeah, I guess. Oh man, but yeah,
you were sick as a kid. You would skip your exam. You had to get a doctor's note to come through. Yeah, you could get Breathe Easy note.
Yes, right. That's right. Get that hall pass from Breathe Easy.
Yes, sir.
With the T-shirt. All sizes.
With the T-shirt, right?
Yeah. There you go.
I'm curious to see how companies will handle the HR aspects of, you have an employee that comes to you and says, my mental state is affected by coming into the office.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I would not be surprised if that's a topic that a lot of the HR departments are going to be dealing with coming up here shortly. For whatever reason, right? The person gains more energy or positivity from working in their space versus working in the office, or vice versa. I think there are a lot of people who need to be around others so they can engage socially, and have that aspect of things as well. So I'm sure HR is going to be pretty busy here coming up.
I think what's really interesting, right, um, is the fact that you have PTO, right, regular leave, typical. You have sick days, right? So one of the articles that I was reading was talking about what about instead of getting rid of sick days, hey, look, I need to be off because I am sick. What about mental health days, or health day? I just need time. Let me give this day because I've been committed to you, employer, about doing these things. I need some time to be able to recoup so that I can bring my best self back to the equation. I think it would be as we bring more. Obviously, I'm biased towards this opinion, right? But as we bring more awareness to mental health and mental health being equally as important, if not more important, as physical health, because we all understand physical health. If we once we bring more awareness to that, I think it's important that that replicates across the board, right? Certainly within our corporate environments where we bring more than just EAP, right? Employee assistance programs, but you know, like I was the example I was given, like leave. Can we give mental health days its due diligence because we all need them from the CEO down to the mailroom, as you would say. We all need them because we all go through various stressors on the job or otherwise.
Ralph, just say it. We just need some more ice cream.
Dude, the ice
We
cream is
need
so
some ice.
good.
We need some ice cream
I
days.
had,
We
I
need
had
some ice
peanut
cream days,
butter.
dude.
It was a peanut butter ice cream, man. It was so
There we
good.
go. Yeah.
So good. See that was the healthy part of it. You know what I mean? Because it was peanut butter in
No, Ralph, I think in all seriousness, right, that is a great idea. And I would take it one step further. I think it needs to be mandatory. And I
it.
don't know how it's broken down where it's, 1 or 2 days per quarter. But I know for me personally, I've taken vacation days because I just let them sit and rack up, and I've got a rack of hours at this point. I'll take a vacation day and do absolutely nothing.
Right.
And for me, that is a mental health day. Not having to worry about hopping on a Zoom call or answering my phone or responding to an email. Sometimes I truly just need to recharge the batteries. So I know we're running at the top of the hour here. We want to go ahead and close it out.
Yeah, I think we talked the topic. We did it some due diligence for sure. Um, yeah, I think it's time that we can put a wrap to it. Shout out to everyone there listening live. Thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate the comments coming through. We really appreciate your engagement. So we really want to say thank you for joining us here on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Uh, Cal, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I mean, we had some good questions. I think something to think about what everyone said on here is, as you think about going back into the office, just, start, be a little selfish for yourself, right? Try and see how you could carve out some time for yourself. And, and then as far as like preparing, I know one thing that I plan on doing to prepare, I don't have to go into the office, but if I was going into the office, is just taking this. This may sound, I know this may sound just a little to our slogan, yeah, but just breathe easy. Just focus on your breath. Just take it one breath at a time. You know, um, I find like when I'm in stressful situations, my breathing tends to get out of whack. But that's what my meditation routine helps me with. Helps me get centered and approach things in a clear mind. So I think that's what we have to do, right? Like these things are uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen. One minute we could be in the office, next minute we could be at home, but you know you just have to like just focus on you. Take some time out to just take the space to find one or a couple things to be thankful of, and things will be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say one of the things that I've learned about myself through this whole pandemic is, uh, and really everybody else, people's ability to adapt, especially when the least expected happens. If you think about where we were a year ago at this time, it was somewhat mass chaos, with not knowing what's going to happen from one day to the next. And we all made it through it. So I would say if you need the help, seek the help, reach out, talk to someone. And on the flip side, reach out and just check on someone, see how they're doing, and dig a little deeper than go on the surface level of, hey, how are things? And you get the normal automated response, everything's good, or everything's okay. No, dig a little bit deeper, check on your loved ones, make sure they truly are okay, and make sure they're going to get through this next phase of returning to the office.
And for me, I think it's important to have the conversation, right? So often we avoid a conversation with whomsoever. In this context, certainly our management, about how we're feeling, what kind of how we feeling about returning to work, how we're feeling about how we're working from home, and what kind of support that you may need. Too often we don't have the conversations, and too often we're not aware of what the options are, right? So I think it's important to have the conversation, and it just starts with, today was a rough day, or today was a great day, and here's the reason why. I think it's that critical element of being that bit of open and transparent, can go a long way in supporting you, in your needs, and what you have, what kind of support system you kind of really need to dig into. So we had, before we close it out completely, right? So perfect question in the comments. What is the topic for next week? Look, guys, we are here every week with you guys, Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And next week's topic is how exercise affects your mental state. How exercise affects your mental state. You know what's really exciting about this topic is that this is our first guest that we're going to have on the Breathe Easy podcast. And this guest is going to bring energy. This guest is going to bring a lot of information, that might help you get off the couch, or get out of the chair, or get out of the room, get out of the house that you're in, walk around the community, and kind of really get into that state. Right. So we really want to be able to understand how the exercise affects our mental state. Certainly, Cal was talking about it earlier during trending topics. And, we're going to dig into that topic even more with a guest, presenter, guest person coming on to our podcast. So really excited about that. Tune in next week for that.
All right, y'all. Well, once again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all your comments this evening. Make sure to subscribe. You can find us at Breathe Easy Media on Instagram. We've got Breathe Easy Media on Facebook, our page. You can follow us there. And then, of course, our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. It will be down below. It's not right now. But hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the notification button so you get notified when we are about to go live. And we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for tuning in.